J-Tech Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. It's America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. And now, here are your hosts, Tom Bastek and Mike Jacobs.
And welcome in. Hello, everyone. It is America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. And this is the game show, guys. Tom Bastek is me.
I is Mike Jacobs, too. Good grammar to start the show off. Like it.
Dude, we killed the grammar thing. We just killed the grammar thing.
I apologize to my 8th grade English teacher.
I don't even know if any of my English teachers are still alive, but if they are, God bless them all.
Yeah, I know some of them are because my friends are friends with them on Facebook, which is weird, but, you know, what are you going to do? From the Department of, it's not corrections, I suppose, but just updates on previous information. Last week on Stump the Chump, as you may recall, we asked Christian a trio of questions about Bill Cullen, the third of which I asked as a joke, what brand of cigarettes did he smoke? Thinking that there was no way for anyone to be able to confirm that. And Christian surmised at the time Camel Unfiltered was the choice, but he had no reasoning or rationale to back that up.
Correct.
Since then, he has contacted the author of a Bill Cullen biography who has confirmed that indeed Bill Cullen's preferred brand of cigarettes was Camel Unfiltered.
Unbelievable.
So
absolutely unbelievable.
We literally can't even stump him on
a fake question
that don't have answers.
Yeah. It's unreal.
I don't have any hope for this week's question, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Well, you guys can please submit some and make them hard. We would love them.
Yeah, obviously the ones that I come up with are not hard enough, so we need some more help from the fans on this
We
one.
need help. All right, that's great.
Yeah.
I don't think we've got anything else. Why don't we just take some time and get right into the news, Michael?
Let's do it.
Light up your cigarette, crack open a beer, and put the kiddos to bed. From chaos around the world to carnage in your burial front yard, it's time for the news.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mike. This is the news brought to you by BuzzerBlog.com. Well, we have a new roster of guest hosts for Jeopardy. All of a sudden, it seems like there's a revolving door for this position. And I personally don't quite know how I feel about it. It feels too soon to have so many people be shuffling in and out. But the staff behind Jeopardy announced that they have a new roster of guest hosts for the next few weeks. We have Ken Jennings right now, who's, I think, doing a great job. Katie Couric, who we briefly discussed last week.
Right.
Mayim Bialik from The Big Bang Theory and Blossom and all kinds of things. She'll be doing it for a couple of weeks, which is actually will be the first doctor to host Jeopardy, which I think will be interesting. Right.
Aaron Rodgers from the NFL, he's a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, is on that list.
That's right. That was a surprise choice for me.
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. He's very personable. You see him all the time in the State Farm commercials. I really would have expected Peyton Manning to get the call before him. But, hey, he's only got a couple years left in the NFL. I love the choice. I'm not hating on that yet.
Well, remember, Peyton Manning also has College Bowl on NBC coming up this year. So he's going to have his turn to host a trivia game show this year.
Sure, and that's a guaranteed gig, not just a sub-in either.
That's right. And he's producing the thing, too.
Oh, yeah, good for him. You know who was left off of that list that I was very upset with, Christian?
Who's that?
Our favorite Reading Rainbow guy?
LeVar Burton. I was just thinking the same thing.
You know, again, LeVar Burton is my dream choice. I wonder, because there's been such an outpouring of support for his getting the job. You know, there's that petition on change.org that has 50,000 signatures. I wonder if they don't have something planned for him down the road. I mean, that's a significant number of people that are interested in seeing that happen. So I still have my fingers crossed for that.
You know, they may be saving him for a reboot of Jeopardy as a children's Jeopardy show.
I think that would be really interesting. They've tried that a couple times, but I think that would be... Also, somebody else that was left off the list that we're seeing in a lot of the news outlets is the executive producer, Mike Richards, is going to host the show for a couple of weeks as well, in between some of the guests that they announced. And he, has some hosting chops. He hosted Beauty and the Geek and The Pyramid on Game Show Network when they did their own version for a while. He was the executive producer of The Price is Right before he moved over to Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. So that's interesting positioning there that he got in right, sort of under the wire, and now he's one of the guest hosts.
Yeah. I wonder if he had a chance to put his name in the hat kind of thing.
Right. And I mean, it makes sense. He's the face of the show, essentially. And in terms of bringing the show to its next chapter, he's really the front man for that. So, he was the first person to publicly acknowledge Trebek's passing on the show. And so there's a little bit of a precedent for authority on his part there. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. He's a decent host.
Mike, you're mighty quiet over there.
Yeah, I was listening to you guys. I like Mayim Bialik. That's really all I got to say.
Awesome. I'm just happy to know that she's a doctor. I had no idea. That's great.
Oh yeah, no, she's crazy smart. I think she's like a neuroscientist, and it's like she has some sort of math degree as well. I recall. I don't remember exactly.
She's a very impressive individual, and I think
Indeed.
I think it's exciting to see a female host of Jeopardy. We have Katie Couric as well, but Mayim Bialik is a little more exciting for me personally.
Yeah, me too.
I 100% agree. And so when we talked about Katie Couric, I said it was just kind of like a meh choice. Mayim Bialik is exactly why I think that Katie Couric is a meh choice, because there's people like her that I think would be much more interesting and, I would rather see in the role.
I just want to know when one of us is going to get the call.
Yeah. They're not calling me anytime soon. I can guarantee that. They don't want some grumpy old guy doing it.
They don't listen to podcasts, I guess.
Oh, apparently neither does anybody else. All right, Christian, what else do you have for us?
Doesn't even matter. Well, in other incredibly exciting news, all of the ABC game shows that premiered this past week, so we had The Hustler with Craig Ferguson, we had Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, we had, any number of shows that had their season premieres this week on ABC. Each of them won their time slot in their respective nights. I think even Name That Tune did incredibly well on Fox. So
wait, all of them?
All of them won their time slots. And I think that's incredible news for the game show genre in general, because especially in a year where there's going to be a bit of a drought in terms of content, and I think producers are going to look for relatively inexpensive programming ideas. We're going to see a lot of game shows this year.
Dude, that's exciting. That's super exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And among the message boards and fan community, there's been a lot of discussion about what shows we'd like to see come back. Because in a decade where we've gotten a new version of Press Your Luck, a new version of Supermarket Sweep, really anything can happen at this point. So everybody's fantasizing about what shows they'd like to see come back in a new form this year.
Well, I'm ready to host the new remote control, baby. I'm bringing it back.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
We'll have like a power hour of programming. You host remote control. I'll host High Rollers.
Oh, nice.
A new High Rollers would be incredible. That's one of my personal, I hope that happens.
To be honest, we'll talk more about this, but I wouldn't mind this week's featured show coming back either. Mike, what are you going to host?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd have to go with Double Dare, right?
Yeah.
It'd be silly for me to pick anything else.
I don't think you're. Although I don't think I'm going to appeal to the college age. I don't think you're going to appeal to the below college age. But maybe, I don't know.
That's a really good. I'm going to make adult Double Dare.
Oh, I like it.
There we go.
Now we're talking. I'm going to make really old guy remote control.
All the questions are about Dobie Gillis.
Oh, that's grand. I love it.
Guys, I lost. What the hell is My Little Margie? Jesus Christ.
Oh, God bless America. All right, Christian, what about this week in game show history?
Well, this week in game show history, we're talking about a bit of a curiosity in the history of game shows. We're going back to January 20th, 1961, and the premiere of a show that was so unbelievably bad that the next episode consisted solely of an apology for the first episode.
No way.
So we're
Wow.
talking about a show called You're in the Picture. Now, this was a primetime sort of panel celebrity-based show hosted by Jackie Gleason. So it had a huge name attached to it, even before they announced, the panel, which the panel was not as famous as Jackie Gleason, clearly. But so the premise of You're in the Picture was this. You know how back on like the boardwalk, in like the 50s, you get those big framed pictures where you stick your head through and you get a souvenir photo of yourself and you got
Sure.
So the premise of the show was this. The panel would stick their heads through a big, giant one of those, big board with, spaces for their heads, and they would ask questions to figure out what they were.
That's not a terrible idea.
Right. On its face, it's not a horrible idea. But the show was destroyed in the press. It was destroyed among critics. It was just not good at all. And so the following week, instead of the second episode of You're in the Picture, it was Jackie Gleason with a chair on an empty set, delivering pretty much a 45-minute monologue about how they thought it was a good idea for the show, how it turned out to be really, really bad. At one point he said, if you didn't tune in last week, we laid the biggest bomb.
Wow.
He said that it made, I think he said something like, it made Hiroshima look like a 21-gun salute.
Oh my God. Oh, man.
But that show, the apology show, was praised unanimously. It was a beautiful piece of programming because it was honest and it was real and it was really, really funny. So,
but he was hilarious back in the day, man. God bless Jackie Gleason.
Oh, Jackie Gleason is the man. Among that era of comedy, yeah, he was a king. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, You're in the Picture this week in game show history. Really, really fascinating stuff.
Oh, that's great. There's something you just wouldn't know about normally,
Yeah.
All right, Michael, it's time for Stump the Chump. What do you have for this week?
Well, we're doing Tic-Tac-Dough this week, right? So
Yeah.
April 3rd, 1958. A contestant on Tic-Tac-Dough wins $140,000 and catches the eye of the federal grand jury investigating the quiz scandals at the time, thus dragging the show in and ultimately ruining the nighttime version of the show. What was the name of that contestant?
That is a phenomenal question. Now, I know that...
Did we get him? Did we get him?
Hey, this is how he starts every one.
You're right.
He's going to
you're
go
right.
on some 20-minute preamble
Yeah.
while his weird back brain goes through the filing system and pulls out the little note card that has this person's name.
Right.
on
Go ahead, Christian. Sorry.
Well, the thing about Tic-Tac-Dough, especially back in the 50s, that was one of the most, in terms of rigging, that was one of the most choreographed shows. I mean, Tic-Tac-Dough was structured like a soap opera, where you had contestants that were almost characters, winning week after week after week. So it really could have been a lot of contestants. I know that there were a few that made their name in the printed word after they made their name on the show. They won a lot of money. I'm trying to think. $140,000. There were a lot of really famous big money contestants back then. But I'm trying to think of who this could have been. I seem to remember there was a military guy. I don't remember if he had an eye patch or not. He might have. I seem to. I may be wrong on the eye patch, but I know that there aren't too many episodes of this show floating around. A lot of those tapes from back then were erased. But there was a captain, I believe he was a captain, named Michael O'Rourke, and he was one of the really popular contestants on Tic-Tac-Dough, and he won a lot of money. I don't remember if it was exactly $140,000 or if he even made it past that. But I had the privilege of seeing one of his episodes years and years ago. Tic-Tac-Dough was a much more serious show in the 50s than it was in the 70s. I'm going to guess and say Michael O'Rourke.
Okay, so Michael O'Rourke is correct.
What?
Military serviceman is correct.
What?
I was really hoping to dog on you about the eye patch because he does not have an eye patch. But here is a picture of him winning on the show against a man with an eye patch.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
I mean,
I'm changing the name of the segment. I haven't figured it out yet. It's no longer Stump the Chump. It's help Tom and Mike not look like chumps. That's the name of the. Are you kidding me? How?
Oh boy,
man, dude, you are Christian. You missed your calling. Why aren't you like a consultant for all these game shows at ABC? This is ridiculous. I am calling them tomorrow and saying, hire this guy. What are you doing? Give me your agent, Christian, because he's not doing a good enough job.
You know, back in the day, I used to collect VHS tapes of all these things. There was like, there used to be this underground circuit of people who would like collect tapes and stuff. And I got entered into it. A friend of mine just sent me a couple and I started trading them. And one of the first tapes I ever had was this episode of Tic-Tac-Dough with Michael O'Rourke playing against, I forget the other guy's name, but he had an eye patch. And I never even figured out if the eye patch was real because the shows were rigged to that degree back then. They were just so heavily scripted and choreographed. I would say the vast majority of the big money quiz shows, maybe even all of them across the board, were rigged to that degree. I mean, you even had Herbert Stemple, the guy who blew the whistle on the rigging of 21 back in the day. He even testified that the producers would tell him what kind of haircut to get, you know, how to like which way to mop his brow while he was thinking about the answer. They would turn off the air conditioning in his booth so that he would physically sweat while he thought about the answer to the question. Like they just had it down to a science, and there was no law against it.
So now let me ask you a question, and this goes. I'm going to ask both of you guys because I'm interested to know your opinions on this, but. Theoretically, at that point in time, television was about entertainment. And did they really technically do anything wrong? Because were you not buying in? Were you not entertained? I mean, that is what it was about.
Are you not entertained?
Well, I think it was about the difference between something scripted and something that was clearly presented to be real people with real knowledge playing a real game for real money. So, you know, it was. I think it was all about the intent. A lot of.
But I mean, couldn't we just? I mean, in today's day and age with reality television, we're doing the same thing. We just throw a little thing at the very end of the thing that the producers may have changed the outcome or blah 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 at the very end, and that takes away all. You know, that's like you wash your hands of all responsibility.
I mean, that's true, but the 50s were a much different time. I mean, TV was only about a decade old by the time all these shows were really, really popular.
Wow.
And, you know, a lot of historians talk about the quiz show scandals as part of the beginning of the end of innocence in entertainment of that era, because it was just a simpler time. And I think for a lot of people, it never crossed their mind that you could rig a game show. You know, it was a simple form of pleasure, simple form of entertainment, and for deception to enter into it just brought about this whole different era in TV.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Michael, you're gonna have to do better next week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll try.
I don't know what to do. I'm lost. He's killing it. He's absolutely killing it. Ladies and gentlemen.
I was going to say the bar is set really high, but I don't know that there even is a bar anymore.
Well, we're going to have to like have some sort of like a contribute to the bucket, and every week that Christian gets it right, we put another $1 in the bucket or something, and then
why would we do that to ourselves?
No. But I'm saying like we should.
I'll just give Christian $50.
I'm not talking about giving. No, listen, I'm not talking about giving Christian money. I'm talking about asking somebody to give a question, and whoever asks the question that stumps them gets the money.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Anyway, all right.
Hey, but what if I get it right? What the hell's going on here?
All you're doing is defending your honor at this point, buddy.
Oh yeah, I'll go home. And make my wife a damn honor sandwich. Right.
Good. Yeah, you right. You do it. You're not going to get any pity from me at this point, buddy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you guys take honor?
Yeah. Good. Good. You pay your mortgage with
Michael
honor.
O'Rourke, can I set up a payment plan, please?
Yeah. Exactly right. You're getting no pity from me. None whatsoever.
I gotta tell you, I might get it right every week, but every week I also start this segment with intense diarrhea. So,
I don't buy that anymore. I bought it the first 5 weeks of this. I'm not buying it anymore. I'm jaded. All right, Christian.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're not. Don't even start apologizing. This week we're doing Tic-Tac-Dough, one of my favorites. Tell us about Tic-Tac-Dough a little bit. What you think?
Sure. Well, Tic-Tac-Dough had two very distinct chapters. We've already talked about one in terms of the big money 1950s black and white rigged version.
Sure.
And then it came back in the 70s, which, for the producers of the show, Jack Barry and Dan Enright, who produced the original Tic-Tac-Dough, for them to come back with a new version of a show that they admit that they rigged was a big risk for that company. But off of the success of The Joker's Wild, which had premiered 6 years prior, in 1972, I guess they felt that the time was right to bring that show back, and they did it in a fantastic way. I mean, Tic-Tac-Dough, to me, is the epitome of 1970s quiz show. I mean, you got the synthesized music, you got Wink Martindale with all his damn shiny-ass teeth, like just that world-class grin. You got the set, the stucco-covered set with with the big computerized board, which, by the way, Tic-Tac-Dough, the first game show to be controlled by Apple computers. So each of those squares was an Apple II. I think it was an Apple II. Well, it was 9 Apple computers all controlled by one single sort of master unit. So a lot of money went
The master unit was an Atari.
I thought it was an Altair, I'll be honest with you.
According to Wikipedia, it's not Atari.
But, cool. I love that.
That could have been our Stump the Chump question.
Damn it.
Maybe next time. So a lot of money went into the production of the show. The set was built. Originally it was shot at CBS because when the show premiered, it was on CBS for about a season in the daytime. And the really popular version that everybody remembers was syndicated. So they shot it in a different production facility. The stage was so small that there was no room to house the set when it wasn't being filmed. So the set used to be kept across the street. On certain days in California, if you were on that street in traffic, you might see the production crew carry the set across the street into the studio.
Don't mind us just walking here, like you see the plate glass window go across the thing, and someone drives a car through it.
It's really surreal. Seeing props like that in real life is incredibly surreal. When I went to see The Price is Right, one of the first things I saw through the gate was Cliffhangers, the game with the little mountain climber. I saw it just in the distance, and it was just incredibly surreal.
You should hear Mike do the yodeling for that.
Oh, I'm waiting. Tic-Tac-Dough is just a fantastic show. And not to mention, for a while, the largest cash winner in game show history was a contestant on Tic-Tac-Dough, Tom McKee, which I'm sure you guys will talk about. But he won over $300,000 in a matter of, just playing on that show. He won 7 or 8 cars, something like that. And just an incredible contestant. But yeah, Tic-Tac-Dough, love it.
All right, I want a plug for Buzzer Blog.
Of course, buzzerblog.com, the #1 game show website in the world, whether you're looking for information on new series, returning series, which we have a lot of this year. It's a good time to be a game show fan. Reviews of anything that's been on the air in the past few years, anything related to game shows of the past and present, whether you're an industry insider, a casual fan, or a game show junkie, which you probably are if you're listening to this podcast. Buzzerblog.com is the place to go. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I bet you if you read Buzzer Blog, you'll be smart like Christian.
Got to eat your vegetables. Just like that.
Oh, and how do we do it, Christian? How do we Stump the Chump eat your vegetables?
Oh, well, then that's why we're doomed.
Exactly right.
Do cheeseburgers count as vegetables?
Yeah, no more cheeseburgers. Yeah. All right, Christian, thanks again so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Once again, if you want to send in a Stump the Chump question, please do so via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or on our website as well.
Or email, or anything, really. But we definitely need some questions because Christian's got to lose eventually.
All right. Coming up now, we've got the history of this week's amazing game, which I didn't even remember it until I started doing the research, Mike. And I realized I fell in love with it again. It was one of my favorites growing up. And I had totally forgotten about it until we did it this week, and I was like, wow.
This one hit the same category for me as Gambit in that I did not really know much about it beforehand, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's great. All right, coming up, history of Tic-Tac-Dough. It's up next right here on America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. And that there is the theme song to Tic-Tac-Dough. That is this week's featured show on America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. Mike Jacobs, it's gameplay time.
It is gameplay time. I would say this one fits under the category of deceptively simple. The elevator pitch here is just it's a game of tic-tac-toe, but with trivia. You got to earn your squares on the tic-tac-toe board. The way it works is we will have two contestants, one of which is a returning champion. The champion will be the X's, and the challenger will be the O's. And before them lies a giant tic-tac-toe board. 9 spaces that start filled with trivia categories. So then the contestants will alternate choosing categories that presents them a trivia question, and if they get it right, they get their respective symbol on that square. If they get it wrong, it just stays unclaimed. It doesn't go to the other person or anything like that. Also, as the questions are answered, a certain amount of prize money will be added to a pot, which is claimed by the winner. So as is the case with basically every game show ever, the amounts of money will change over the years as it airs, but generally the idea is that the center box is worth a little bit more than an outer box. I think it started at like 200 for the center box, 100 for the outer, and then kind of, climbs up like that over the years. Again, the winner of the round would claim that money in the pot. Strategically speaking, as most people know, in a game of tic-tac-toe, the center square is, of course, the most important, which is why it's worth more money in the prize money aspect. But it also is, worth more in the term of winning the game, right? The ultimate goal here is to get a tic-tac-toe. So having the center square really helps with that. So they had to make that question a little more difficult. And what they would do here is it was a 2-parter, answer question A and question B. And for this one, they were given 20 seconds to consider their answer before they actually had to answer. They could pass that up if they wanted to. I get it because there's 2 answers. You got to kind of think about it for a second. But it also, to me, felt like a very odd break in the show. Like they just kind of throw on the speed brake real quick and then get going again. But again, it makes sense for, the person has to be able to have time to come up if they're going to double the questions, After each question is asked, the categories will be shuffled around on the board. So really what that means is that you can't necessarily plan your strategy of which squares you're going to go for based on the categories that are there. In other words, if you start the game and you see a row of 3 in categories that you're really good at, those categories are not always going to be in that position. So you can't just say, oh, sweet, I'm going to go for those 3 and win.
Oh, okay.
Now, just like in real tic-tac-toe, it is very, very possible for the game to end in a draw, and actually happen quite often on the show. When that happened, they simply start a new game with the same contestants. What this really means, though, is that it was not uncommon for a single match of 2 people to span several episodes. They could just keep rolling on.
Does the prize roll up at that point too?
It does indeed, and we're going to get to some stuff in the history in regards to prizes. But
okay.
This show holds a lot of accolades in general, but specifically in regards to prize money. So we'll get to that later.
Cool.
But yes,
Great.
It absolutely does roll over from each one. Like I say, you get the pot of money only when you win. So all the money that was earned in that first round, first game, rolls over to the second because no one won it to take it. Once finally a contestant wins, like I say, they'll return the next time as the champion, and they actually would continue returning until defeated. In the daytime version, CBS had imposed a limit of $25,000. So nobody won any more than that. But the syndicated version did not have that same limits. That was specifically CBS imposed. So, the syndicated version didn't have to follow that. Returning champs could win much, much more, and in fact did. Again, we'll get to this later, but that also includes CBS stations. The syndicated version ran on CBS stations, and so that caused quite a kerfuffle for a little bit.
Wow, interesting.
Another point of strategy when being a returning champion is that when you're defeated, whatever your opponent won is deducted from your winnings. So in other words, if you win, I don't know, let's just say $16,000, right? And the next day you lose and the contestant has won the person who beat you has won $1,000. You're only walking home with $15,000 because that contestant just took $1,000 from
What?
you.
Wait. So literally, like, if they beat you by $12,000, you go home with $4,000?
Yes.
Oh, that's crappy.
Yeah, it takes the money out of your pool.
Oh, what a cheesy way for the producers to save money on that.
Well, but I mean, I don't disagree with that, but they did give the player the option of stopping if they wanted to. You were not.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're risking going ahead. Okay,
Exactly.
that's a whole. You're gambling that going ahead. That's a whole nother story.
Yes,
that's
you are
my
gambling.
Bad, my bad.
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. At any point you could stop. Now the other thing to think of though is that like the chances of you getting $16,000 over the course of X episodes and then someone getting $12,000 in one episode unseating you, like it's not going to be that big of a deal, right? You're not losing that much money because you had several episodes. That being said, again, records later, people have won some large amounts of money in that one single game. Another thing about the show, but for winning, the prizes on the show are just astronomical. Every 5 contestants that you would beat as a returning champion would get you a new car. And again, that's every 5 contestants, and there's no cap. So if you beat 10 people, you're getting 2 cars. If you get 15 people, you're getting 3 cars.
So it wasn't the kind of thing where you was it the kind of thing where you had to chant, so I don't know what game show it was that we were talking about. Maybe it was Match Game or Scrabble, one of the two, no, it wasn't Match Game. I don't know. Where there was 5 cars parked there and you would pick one. And if it didn't start, then after 5, obviously you would definitely just get one.
Right.
Is it like that, or is it just beat 5 contestants, win a car?
As far as I can tell, it's beat 5 contestants, win a car.
Wow.
And we can do the math when we get to the history, but
sure.
Yeah, like I say, there's records to be discussed.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Starting in the 80s version, they started doing special categories for the questions that are in the Tic-Tac-Dough board in the main round. Typically, these are just what you would imagine a special category in a trivia game to be. The idea being like an auction, which is not an auction for money, but rather for answers. And this one was actually my favorite. There's a board game called Geek Out that I love playing that's very similar to this. But the idea is it's like name as many, I don't know, Simpsons characters as you can, right? And they would
I can name 12.
I can name 18. Right?
I can name 19.
Exactly. So you go back and forth until someone bids the highest amount.
Okay.
And if they, complete whatever they've bid, then they win. Otherwise, the other person has a chance to name one extra and win instead.
Go!
Hey, there it is. That was pretty good. Other options, double or nothing. In other words, you can risk going for a second box or lose the one that you just won. Toss-up questions where either player can buzz in. All sorts of different stuff like that. It's not really that the questions were any different. It's just the way that they are presented that was different. It started out that there was only one of those per game, and then they eventually, I guess, got really popular because they started doing 2 and then eventually 3. And they would shuffle those around as normal with the other categories, except that they would never put a special category in the center square.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense, but it also, I think, hints at the same thing that happened that we talked about with Press Your Luck, where it's not truly random, right? Like if you are putting in a caveat that says you can't go to the center square, then how much randomness can there actually be, right? I wonder if there's maybe a pattern to this too, and nobody just cared enough to figure it out.
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, interesting.
Yep. And then finally, at the end of the game, there is the bonus round known as Beat the Dragon.
Wait, beat the dragon?
Yeah, no, I don't know. There's a dragon.
Like as a real dragon.
No, I mean there's a dragon on the board. The idea here is that you get a blank board, and it really differs throughout all the years of what the end goal is, except for that you are trying to avoid the dragon. There's 8 spaces that have something that's not a dragon, and then the 9th space is a dragon.
It's just like a whammy.
It's 100% a whammy. They just call it a dragon.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
And so, like I say, maybe there's money behind all the other spaces, so you can keep picking and earning as much money as you want. Sometimes it's X's and O's, and you got to try and get tic-tac-toe. Sometimes it's the words tick and tack, and you got to put those together. Like I say, it's all the idea of just get something without getting the dragon. It's a whammy.
Nice. All right, well, that's a pretty cool final game, though. I'm down with that.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's kind of just, I mean, it's chance, but considering how much strategy's in the rest of the game, it doesn't bother me at all. And we've talked a couple times in different shows about doing audience games at the end, and this was no different. When a round ended without a dragon being found, they would then go to the audience, and the audience members could try and find the dragon for, I think it was like $250 or something like that, and then it would maybe it differs from version to version, but one version it was $250, and then it would go up by 50 for each square that was revealed that was not the dragon.
Wow.
Or they would just get two people, and it would just go back and forth, and whoever found the dragon got the money. But yeah, just cool little audience games for if they had extra time.
Well, I'm a big fan of the audience games anyway. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, anything else for gameplay, Michael?
No, man, that's it. Like I say, deceptively simple. It's just tic-tac-toe and trivia, but there's a lot of strategy, and obviously, I mean, trivia in itself has the skill and the randomness of the final game. It's got all those elements really well placed together.
I also like the idea of the center square being like worth more and also harder to get too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not just like, oh yeah, well it's $200, but it's also more difficult to get to that square, because that makes a lot of sense. Like they've definitely done this right. I think you had texted me earlier in the week and said this game is everything that you wanted Hollywood Squares to be.
Absolutely, yeah. Hollywood Square, it's the same game basically, except in this one I feel like you actually have to earn the square as opposed to just like letting a celebrity dork around for a little bit.
Love when the celebrities dork around, but that's another show.
Literally, go listen to our Hollywood Squares episode.
Yeah, there you are. Hey, we love it. All right, so we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk the history of this game, which you said there's a lot of, right?
A long and storied history for this show, to be certain.
Fantastic. It's coming up next. You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. And welcome back. It's America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. And this is segment number 3 of show number 32. Michael, the game is Tic-Tac-Dough. We're in history time.
We are in history, and lots of history indeed there is. So let's just jump right in. July 30th, 1956 is our premiere. Jack Barry is the host. He is also the co-creator, co-producer, co-everything.
Co-everything.
Yep, basically. Also, just a quick note, I'm going to be skipping over a lot of stuff here because there is a ton to cover. So
no, that's fine, and that's more for our audience than it is for me.
Yes, exactly. I'm letting the audience know that this first part's going to go pretty quick.
Keep the harassment to a minimum, please.
Indeed. Okay, so from 56 to 58, basically it just bounced around hosts. Like I say, Jack Barry started. Gene Rayburn came in for a little bit because Jack Barry went over to host 21. Initially, it let him host both. The schedules allowed him to host both. Then it shuffled around, shuffled back, whatever. So anyways, it keeps flip-flopping between them kind of. And I'm sorry, that was from 56 and 57. And then in 58, Jack Barry leaves for good, and Bill Wendell, the previous announcer, steps in as the host and holds that role until the end of the show in 1959. Now, during this time, there was also an ill-fated nighttime version produced from 57 to 58. This is what we discussed with Christian in the Stump the Chump segment. And so The host at this time for that version was a man by the name of Jay Jackson. He never hosted again, but that was really unfortunate for him because he was sort of caught in the crossfire here and was cleared of any wrongdoings. What wrongdoings, might you ask? Well, like I said, 57 to 58, this was the infamous game show scandals of the 50s where many shows were getting in trouble for being rigged. So like we spoke with Christian about, there was the contestant who initially drew their eye, but the real ringleader here was a producer by the name of Howard Felsher, which, I mean, apologies to anyone who has that last name, but that just sounds like a movie villain last name, if you ask me.
All right, so now all the Felshers are going to write in and be like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Mike, great job.
Watch our listenership drop by like 10%. Who knew it was such a popular name? So he was really, like I said, the brains behind the operation. Another famous story involving him was that he brought in a contestant by the name of Kirsten Falk. She was an aspiring folk singer and brought in as a rigged contestant. She was given the categories and questions ahead of time, and was offered like a platform to sort of promote her music and perform and get her name out there. Apparently she really screwed up because the way I figure it, or the way I understand it, is that it was supposed to happen in a certain order. Like she knew that, question one would be this and answer one would be this, but she did it in the wrong order, and ended up winning like almost no money in the grand scheme of things. I think her grand total was only like $800. But guess what? That doesn't really matter. It's still illegal. So obviously, at this point, the show has already caught the eye of the feds, and so Felsher goes to this woman, Kirsten, and tries to convince her to lie under oath to a Supreme Court.
What?
Yeah. It turns
out she's like a folk singer?
Yeah, and I think she was like 16 or 18 or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he is a scumbag. And this was not the only incidence of this. He eventually came clean and admitted to all this. But he in total asked 30 other contestants to lie under oath, and he himself also lied under oath. And yeah, when all is said and done, he estimated that about 75% of that nighttime version was rigged. Wow. So
yeah, just to let you know, he's currently residing in hell. If you go, say hello for me.
Well, so here's the thing. He was absolutely fired for that. No question. He came back later. He was a producer working for Goodson Todman Productions.
Really?
That's so messed up because Jay Jackson, the host, cleared of any wrongdoings. Like he was just a suit that was running the show, never hosted again. Career ruined. The guy who orchestrated the whole thing continued his career successfully. Like, that's so messed up.
Well, that's showbiz for you back in those days,
yeah,
man.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Unbelievable.
Though it is interesting to note, so like I say, this was all that nighttime version that happened in 57 and 58. The daytime version was still going at this point. Gene Rayburn was hosting, and they basically saw no effect from any of this. So a thing to keep in mind is that while this show was dragged down because of the game show scandals, it was specifically that nighttime version from 57 to 58. Gene Rayburn came out clean as a whistle. That entire show totally stayed clear of the scandal.
So let me make sure I understand this. So the daytime and syndicated are running at the same time. The syndicated gets shut down because of the scandals. The daytime is clean, same show, different host, and that one gets to continue on.
Correct.
Wow.
Now, I don't know what impact it had on like popular opinion at the time, and it's also worth keeping in mind that daytime show only ran for another year afterwards. So, I don't know if it was a sort of just ran its course kind of thing, or if maybe that last year people didn't trust it as much or what. But yeah, I have to think that it had some impact on people wanting to watch it, right? Like, if it were me, I would turn on that show and be like, oh, that's that show that got in trouble for cheating. I don't care about this anymore, and change the channel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe people liked the show so much that, or they liked Gene Rayburn so much that they were like, well, thank God he wasn't part of that. We can watch this show. It's wholesome.
Well, I definitely think that was a part of it for sure. Because like I say, it is bizarre to think that, you know, something so big could happen and another version of the same show would just be completely unscathed. So I think that probably does give a lot of props to Gene Rayburn. So fast forward to 1978, and we get a new version on CBS. At this point, CBS is just churning through shows, trying to get a lead into Price is Right. They want to, I guess, expand their, powerhouse game show hour to longer time span. Who can blame them?
Sure.
This one did not work out, though, due to stiff competition, specifically Card Sharks. They did not stand a chance against it. After 9 weeks, the plug is pulled and Tic-Tac-Dough is gone again. So this is another weird, like, ping-pongy thing that this show did. So while that version was running, they were already planning a new nighttime version. And so they said, you know what, even if this daytime one didn't pan out, let's start this nighttime one anyways. And that's the one with Wink Martindale.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Well, so it's not. Because during that nighttime version, they decided to parlay that back into another syndicated version. And that's the one that stuck and ran for 8 years.
Oh, that's the one I remember.
So it's like they started as one format, went to another, and then switched back, and then it stuck. But yeah, Wink Martindale was the host. So more or less, that is the one that you remember. And this is really the one that is most notable for several reasons. Most importantly, a contestant by the name of Tom McKee, and that is Thom. I think that's still Tom, right?
Thom McKee.
Is it Thom?
No, it's not Thom. I'm totally joking.
I've never heard someone say that name out loud, so I've never known. Go
ahead.
Anyways, he is notable for being the record holder for the most amount of money won on a game show at the time. He
also looks like a Ken doll.
Yeah. He is he is a very stereotypical, like, just blonde hair, blue eyes, Navy pilot.
It's so funny. But go ahead, continue. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Obviously, since then, his record has been beaten. But so what happened was he beat 43 opponents.
Oh my gosh!
So if you remember in the rules, every 5 opponents gets you a car, right?
A car. So he won 8 cars or something?
8 cars.
Oh my gosh!
A total of $312,700 in prizes. $200,000 of which was just cash.
Wow.
So he absolutely raked it in. But as you recall earlier, we mentioned that CBS had a limit. And so at this point, a CBS affiliate in New York put it all together and said, oh, wait a minute. We are breaking our own standards and practices by airing this syndicated show. We have to put in a cap. There has to be a winning cap. We can't continue to just throw money and cars at people. So they set a limit to $50,000. But really what that means is that it was now impossible for anyone to beat his record, right? So he held the record for most won in a game show for 16 years. Until 1999. The first person to get 500,000 in Millionaire broke that record. 16 years, the highest amount of money ever won on a game show. He also holds the record for most money won in any single match of the game, $36,800 after 4 tied rounds. So like you said earlier, it rolls over each time, right? So he played the same person 4 times and then beat him and won $36,800 in one go.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Well, and you got to wonder, like, at what point does the scale tip where it's like, I understand the producers want to give away big prizes and they want people to win a lot because it brings in more people and drives up hype and gets people talking about it. But at the same time, like, it sounds like this show is just vomiting money.
Well, and the other thing that you wonder, especially, okay, now the 80s is 25 years, 1980s, 25 years removed from the scandals. But, I mean, that's the first thing you think of. When you heard about Ken Jennings on Jeopardy, does that not thought cross your mind of, is there some sort of cheating going on?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm not saying that I felt that way. And nowadays, I really feel like they do everything in their power, especially, talking to Christian and hearing him talk about everything they do to make sure that it's all above board, But I sit there and I think, gosh, when you see a run like that, immediately the first thing I'm thinking of is this a scandal?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point, like we talked about in Stump the Chump, that's exactly what got the show on the radar of the scandal to begin with.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. So the other, I guess, notable thing about this version of the show was the game board itself. So each individual space was its own Apple II computer, and then there was a master Atari. I think it was I don't remember which model it was, but an Atari computer running all 9 of these computers, which makes it apparently the first game show to use computer graphics for their game board.
Huh. Really?
Yep, indeed. So yeah, like I say, very, very notable show. Wink Martindale, of course, hosting for almost the entire run. He got the first 7 years in, and then for the final year, he was replaced by Jim Caldwell, and then that version ran until May 23rd, 86. But then, 4 years later, we get another syndicated version, this time hosted by Patrick Wayne. I don't know if you recognize that name or not. He's in a bit of movies here and there, probably best known for being John Wayne's son.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I never heard of him.
I hadn't either. I was like, who's this Patrick Wayne guy? And then I look him up, and it's like the youngest of John Wayne's sons. I'm like, oh, well, there's a bit of credit there. Also notable about the 90s version was the music was composed by Harry Mancini, popular composer. His last game show theme before passing on. Did not do well, unfortunately. 13 weeks it ran, and then stumbled along in reruns for a little bit afterwards. Ultimately, just
I thought you meant the music didn't do well.
No. Sorry, the show in general. His music did fine, I'm sure.
Okay.
But yeah, did not last long. And that's the last version that we've seen here in the States. Of course, we mentioned this in the episode on concentration, but it's one of only 3 Barry Enright game shows that have gotten foreign adaptations, the other one being 21. The other ones, there's just kind of what you would expect. I think the only thing that I wanted to note here was that the British version is called Crisscross Quiz. And when I first read that, I was like, wow, it's weird that they went with such a different name. But then I remembered they don't call Tic-Tac-Toe Tic-Tac-Toe. So saying Tic-Tac-Dough makes no sense to them.
No sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe they call it Knots and Crosses.
There you go.
So yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That would have been a good Stump the Chump question right there.
Yeah.
Well, we always think of this afterwards. It never fails.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe next. He's not going to listen to this, so we could just ask him next week.
You're right. He never listens to our podcast. You know that. Okay, Mike. Well, I guess it's time for us to rate. What are we rating?
Well, I really, 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 really like the show. I think the strategy is great. It's a fun concept. There's a lot of different aspects to it. All the hosts are great. It kind of hits all the buttons, right? I also think that just the amount of history that's here and the records that, the prizes that it gave out, the fact that it went through the game show scandal not unscathed, but survived it, you know what I mean? I think that says a lot about the show. That being said, I had the same reaction to Gambit, and I did not like this as much as Gambit, so I have to go less than Gambit. I went back and re-listened to the episode. I gave Gambit a 4, so that means that I have to go 3.75 for this. If I had to do it over again, I would bump Gambit up to 4.25 and give this a 4. But as it stands, I'm gonna stay true to my past and say 3.75. It's a great show. Stands the test of time, I feel. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so 3.75 boxes?
Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about quantity. Yeah, or X's or O's.
X's or O's or, okay, well, you would choose whatever you'd like, X's or O's. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
No problem. I am also going 3.75. It's very funny that you came down to 3.75 because I'm like, I think Mike's going to go a 4 on this, and I'm going 3.75 on this. And then you came down to 3.75. I wish you could have seen the smile on my face when you came down to 3.75. I was like, people think we've planned this.
Right? Hey, it's rigged.
This is one of my favorites. I didn't realize it was one of my favorites again until we started researching it this weekend. I was like, oh, yeah. And Wink is definitely one of my faves. And it's making me realize just how much there are so many shows that I saw as a child that I clearly don't remember. Like, I need to go and watch a lot of them. And the cool thing is that by us doing this research each week for each episode, I get to explore a little bit of my past on a lot of these. And this is one of those that I did get to do that with. And I loved it. I thought the concept's good. And maybe I just am a simpleton and I like Tic-Tac-Toe. I don't know. And to be honest with you, in a previous episode, I was like, I don't like Tic-Tac-Toe, but I do like Hollywood Squares. But that's the truth is that I don't really have an opinion either way on Hollywood Squares. On Tic-Tac-Toe. I do love Hollywood Squares, but I love this one as well. 3.75 is where I'm going, and I'm sticking to it for now.
All right. Well, I'm glad we see eye to eye on it. I think that means it was a good, a solid score for both of us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week, Mike.
Indeed, it is. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Buzzerblog, everyone who's writing us, all the Stump the Chumpers, the people who are mad at us for not getting everything right all the time. Everybody.
Thank you. Tune in again next time. We'll bring you the latest and greatest in the world of game shows, as well as a brand new featured show, too.
And remember, you can always catch us online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, tellthemwhatthey've.com.
Please subscribe, share, like, and drop a good review. Only good reviews. If you like what you heard.
And if you didn't like it, can I convince you to lie under oath about it?
Yeah, you and 30 other people, please.
Yeah, right?
See you next week, Mike.
Bye, Tom.
You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. A JTech audio production. Copyright 2020. No part of this podcast may be reproduced by anyone without the express written consent of the creators. For more information or to contact us, please go to tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com.
All right, Tom, what'd you learn this week?
So, Mike, I learned that Wink Martindale is he's one of my favorite hosts, but it's interesting. I never really realized the reason. He hosted so many of the game shows that I love. And I guess that's why I like him as much as I do. It's he's definitely one of the classics and one of my favorites.
Well, I think it's a little bit of the belt and belt loop situation in that you don't really know who the real hero is. Do you like shows because Wink Martindale is the host, or do you like Wink Martindale because he's the host of good shows?
That's a question for another day. All right, what did you learn this week?
I learned that I want to start a Justice for Jay Jackson movement. He didn't do anything wrong. Why was he not allowed to be a game show host anymore? He was railroaded. He deserves better. Jay Jackson, what could have been?
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think we're a little past due on that.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a little posthumous redemption.
Copyright 2020, a JTech audio production.